Welcome one, welcome all to the mixiest mixtape in the history of mixtapes. It is the NFC East Mixtape, a production that you can listen to on any of SB Nation's NFC East podcast networks. That's Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles, Hogs Haven for the Washington Commanders, or Big Blue View for the New York Good once again at Football Giants. You can also watch this show on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from BGN. I am RJ Ochoa from BTB. Brandon, I've been dancing on my own for the last couple of days.
Yeah, you should be. I don't know much to say.
It's okay. I don't have much else to say either. It was a good.
I'll
week.
let my
It was
tweet
a
stand.
Week. You had a tweet
stands.
that not a lot of people liked. I do think I have two things that we need to address just from like a procedural standpoint for all the listeners. I had a handful of mixologists reach out to me and literally say some version of, I don't even watch or care about baseball, but I'm rooting for the Astros to root against BLG. Wow. Obviously these are Cowboys fans that were saying this. Obviously had a lot of Philly fans who were rooting for the Phillies, had some handshakes, congratulations, sorts of messages shared over the weekend. But yeah, our little culture here has those kinds of tentacles. How does that make you feel?
It's fun. Added a unique layer to the mixtape that I'm sure, won't be here like every season, like most years we're going to have a relatively similar format or whatever, or each week. So this is an interesting wrinkle that we don't know will necessarily come up again. Probably won't. So, it's fun that people want to be involved beyond just listening to us. It's cool.
Now, let me say this. All right. And this will upset you and it will upset all the Philly fans, but I have to say, so Cowboys-Eagles is maybe the best rivalry going in the NFL. Like who has a more contentious rivalry? I mean, like Seahawks-Niners back in the day, like 10 years ago was really great, but there's nothing, at the level of Cowboys-Eagles. But the problem with it, and I don't think there's really a problem, but like Cowboys lose a few weeks ago, it sucks. I have to write the article that I did, at Blogging the Boys, whatever. I had to give my apology letter here about AJ Brown. Like I love all the kind of, taxes we're having to pay on behalf of our sports teams here. But on some level, it was like, okay, well, they lost, but they'll play again on Christmas Eve. Like you always kind of have that right after the first game. And even if you get swept, right, like the Eagles did last year, it's like, well, we'll come back next year, right? There's always the guarantee of like, we're going to get them once here. We're going to get to go over there once. This is different. This is a forever title that I have against the city of Philadelphia. I have literally slayed this city in a championship round. I am the king of Philadelphia.
All right. Really bad vibes when it comes to once the Union blew that lead in the MLS Cup final, I already didn't feel good about the Phillies' chances, but I was like, there's no way there's literally a 0% chance the Phillies are going to win this game. Even when Schwarber hit that home run, I was just like, no, this is not going to happen.
It did have this I know Philly fans were really uncomfortable. Like, I don't mean Phillies, but like the general kind of Philadelphia fans were uncomfortable prior to the season, right? Like, I don't like all these good vibes. Everyone needs to underrate the Eagles again, blah, blah, blah.
No, I don't think everyone was saying that.
No, not everyone, but some people were saying that, right? Like, that's a silly thing. But that loss did have this like, oh my gosh, of course we would be the city to lose 2 championships in a single day, right? Like it
first
set that
one
up
ever,
right? Like it set that up where your like mind goes to that worst possible place. My last victory lap I want to take. I was told that Citizens Bank Park was this
You're so wrong about this still.
Fortress that could not be conquered. That's all I want to say.
I mean, how did it go when the Astros got down in the one game early on? They crushed them. The other game, they got no hit. There's nothing to cheer for. How are you supposed to cheer? And I will say I was there at that game, embarrassingly, till the end. Like, the fans were still in it to the end. And there was some tweet out there about how fans were exiting. That wasn't true. I was there. Maybe like a couple people here and there, but the masses were generally there. So there wasn't like swaths of empty seats. They stayed till the end, and they did cheer for a team that was getting no hit. So I'm not going to give you that one. The team didn't give.
I say this in full grace.
The Phillies didn't give anyone to cheer anything about. Like, if my point there was that if the Phillies give like the fans like a little window to cheer about, I don't think the Astros were coming back from that. And we saw that in the first game in Philly. But the last two games, they didn't give him anything to cheer about. The second game, again, they got no hit. And the third game, like the crowd was like trying to will them into that one moment. They had so many chances in that game. They like so many chances, so many runners left on base, and it just didn't happen. It was just bad luck.
The final game in Philly was incredibly stressful, obviously. And I will say, it was not like the Astros cruised through the Mariners. I was never worried throughout that series. I was never worried against the Yankees. But I will say, and so I love the mixtape. Like, this is my favorite show that I do. I don't know if it's your favorite. If it's not, it's okay. I have another one that I do with you. So if you pick that one, I'm still a winner in that sense. But it was more stressful because of the mixtape, because of the relationship that we have going on here and the culture and everything that we've it was a constant thorn in my mind. Like, if the Astros lose, I'm going to have to hear about this forever from so many people.
Exactly.
So I'm obviously on the other side of that spectrum now, which feels great. But it was a really fun week. Really fun. Sports should be that way. Sports should be full of jubilation and pain. That's the way sports fandom works.
I'm also glad it's over from a standpoint of it's just too much. Like, just too much going on.
There's a lot to focus on. Yeah.
Especially the short week. The Eagles playing on a short week, and we can transition to them. But yeah, it was just too much because it's like I have to watch the games at night. Like, I can't, and I'm behind at work. It's a short week. It's just this is too much. There's too much happening at once. It's fun, but I'm kind of glad it's just over because it's just okay, now I can kind of get back to my life a little bit.
So to tie a bow on all the necessary things, if anyone sees Brandon's Twitter profile picture, he has paid up. We're unlike one of our colleagues. We'll just leave it at that. We're people who pay up on our bets around here. All right. So I mentioned I didn't bet the AJ Brown apology letter, but it was necessary. So I gave it. I wrote the article at Blogging the Boys. We talked about that after the Eagles beat the Cowboys. You have changed your Twitter profile picture. You did that last year after Dallas beat Philly in week 3.
Yeah.
But this year, instead of the Blogging the Boys logo, it is Jeremy Pena with the World Series trophy. Just looking all sorts of badass as the World Series MVP. So we didn't specify this, but I thought you would probably have it till the day the Eagles play. So till Monday. I don't know if, whatever. Those are some loose parameters. But I think everyone assumed that was a bet payoff. What I have to address, and I think I was a very good sport about this. I don't know if you had a hand in this, but in case anyone does not know, at SB Nation, we have a group of expert picks that we make every week. And the rules are, everyone should read these, by the way, at sbnation.com every Thursday. Whoever performs the best in a given week gets to write a tweet for whoever performs the worst. You've never been either one, right? So far this season?
No, I was very close. I think I was tied for a best recently, but I lost out on the tiebreaker, which is kind of it's a finicky tiebreaker, which you also lost on. So I will acknowledge that it's a very subjective tiebreaker, I think, but whatever.
Yeah, it's stupid. I will say that. But I lost. I was last this week, and Gina Kelly, our great friend, was first. And again, I'm going to assume that Brandon had a hand in this because when it was announced in our Slack chat that Gina won and I lost, Brandon said, "What was your line? Like, I'm available for consult," or what? I forgot exactly how you put it. So for my first question, before I read the tweet, did you work with Gina on what my tweet wound up being?
I mean, she reached out to me to consult me. Yeah.
Well, after you offered your consulting.
Sure,
skills.
But she didn't have to take me up on that. I was not pressuring her. I did not message her.
Of course. So I'm pulling up the tweet right now. So I had to write this tweet, and again, I think I was a very good sport about it. It went, I wouldn't say it went viral, but
That's 78 retweets and 1,460 likes.
It had the effect that I think you wanted it to have. I think Gina was just happy to be a part of something funny. Man, I can't find the tweet now as I'm looking.
I can read it for you. If the Cowboys just had a truly good quarterback like Jalen Hurts, they'd be undefeated this season.
Yeah. So who literally wrote it? Did you that's my first question is who literally wrote this? I'm about to get to the division, but did you send this and she was like, I like that. And then she sent it to me.
I just threw out some ideas and, something along the lines of this.
Well, so the way it's written is really internet-y. And a lot of people naturally assumed it was sarcasm, which it wasn't. It wasn't even like me being sarcastic. You know, it was just me like literally saying it. And then there were a lot of like, is this your I'm kidnapped tweet? You know what I mean? Whatever. So I want to give a shout out to the people who like assumed something was up. But yeah, obviously I don't feel that way. If that wasn't obvious. But yeah, I would say of all the tweets that any loser has had to write so far this season, none of them have created the chaos. My mentions were a disaster, and they weren't like a disaster of like, you know, people coming at me. They were a disaster. I don't know if you like check through this. They created all sorts of arguments, like all sorts of people arguing with one another, like based off of this tweet. And so it was just kind of insane how that's kind of how like Twitter works, obviously, but like how people can like turn something into their own like kind of rallying cry for a fight.
Okay. I'm glad to cause chaos or contribute to causing chaos.
Very chaotic. Okay, so it was a very weird week in the NFC East. Now that we've gotten all that taken care of, the Eagles played on Thursday night, obviously one day after last week's episode. It was a little bit close. We'll get there. The Cowboys and Giants are both on bye. The Commanders came close. I have a Commanders take that I can't wait to get to, but first we have to talk about the Eagles. Wow. Do you feel like, look, a win is a win. So like nobody, I think it's dumb to be like, what a bunch of losers. Like they won. Whatever, but did it feel like
the best
a more
start in franchise history?
Yeah. Oh well, you were really sensitive about this on the look ahead last week. But do you feel like it was? Well, those are not my words; they're Stats' words. Do you feel like it was a weaker, maybe not the weakest version of the Eagles we've seen this season, but a weaker version relative to the norm that we've seen so far?
I mean, they didn't cover, so yeah. I mean, although if Jake Elliott makes a 53-yard field goal in a dome, which usually I would trust him to do that, they would have covered because it was a 12-point difference in the end. Spread was 14 or 14 and a half, I think, by game time there. Yeah, I mean, it's not an A+ win by any means, but like when you consider the circumstances, the Texans I think are really bad. I've outlined that. At the same time, I think they played like prior to this game, they played 5 one-score games. So it wasn't like they were getting blown out every single week. Also, I would say
they've played that many one-score games.
Yeah, the Texans. Right. And also, anytime you play on the road on a Thursday night game, it's typically not like, you know, an easy spot for the road team, especially in that matchup. So, like, I'll allow all that. I will say, moving forward, the biggest concern is the run defense. Like, that's what came out of this. Obviously, the Eagles are just not a good tackling team. I've highlighted that before here in the mixtape, like, as I don't know, back in like week 4 or whatever. I was going through all the stats. So that's definitely a concern. No Jordan Davis. That certainly hurts. I would say that, not to excuse the tackling issues, but to point out that if you're not a good tackling team, probably like a short week Thursday game is also going to exacerbate those issues. Like you're not going to have a better tackling performance when guys are tired on top of not being good at tackling already. So I would certainly say that did not help. And by virtue of not having to play another short week like that, that is certainly something that works in their favor. But on the whole, not like concerned in a huge way after this game, because again, they won. They're 8-0. I also think some people's takes that like, oh, the Eagles are they're undefeated, but they're not the best team in the league, didn't really age well with the Bills. The Bills look.
Well, yeah, the Bills helped that argument a lot themselves.
Right. And the Chiefs almost losing to the Titans.
Yeah, they didn't have their way with the Titans like I thought they would. So I agree. I still don't personally. I have the Eagles second in my power rankings. I have the Chiefs first just because like it comes down to Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. And that's not a shot at Jalen Hurts. It's just Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. But I mean, you're right
on that tier. Yeah.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, I think people thought for the last like month that there was like a tier of like the Bills and Chiefs in whatever order, and then the next tier, however far down, was the Eagles. I'm more willing to put the Eagles in that mix now, but some of that is, like we said, it's the Bills and Chiefs coming down as much as it is the Eagles also coming up. I don't understand the phrase sliding doors like that people use a lot. I don't know what that means. Like in just normal language. But I do think there's as I understand the phrase, there's like a sliding doors effect happening with the Eagles here and it's really just based off of last week, which isn't fair. Like, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but like, obviously, again, like, I don't know, what do you want, like a B- win? Like, if you're the one who said not an A+, like even if it's a B-, like it's fine. You'll still take a B- win over an A+ loss. So you're talking about like a team coming off a proverbial B- win. I'm more interested in their upcoming, games than I was. Like, I think a month ago, these games, and I'm not even saying like the Eagles are about to lose all these games, but a month ago, I thought they were far easier wins than the way I feel they're going to be now. I still think the Eagles are probably going to win most of these games, but Washington on Monday night, I'm kind of like little bit interested, like the bare minimum level of interested, but still, whatever. At Indianapolis, those losers, the Packers, ultra losers. But this 4-week stretch that starts in week 13, Tennessee, at New York, at Chicago, at Dallas. Even New Orleans can be plucky, but not really. We were recording this Tuesday morning. They were awful on Sunday night. Plus, that's the first round pick game. That 4-week stretch, I don't find it to be like impossible if you came back from the future like they lost 2 or 3 of those games. Like that would be the point where things unraveled just a little bit in my mind.
Well, yeah, the Justin Fields reckoning is obviously coming for me. Which, by the way, just like someone said to me that like I had to like apologize for my Justin Fields takes because of his performance he had in a game where he averaged 4.4 yards per attempt, 4.4 yards passing yards per attempt.
It is.
I have to apologize.
It's kind of funny how people are equating him
for that
or likening him to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So it's funny just like for the BLG-ness of it all. But you're right. That reckoning is coming hard for you. The way the Broncos reckoning came for me last year, you're getting
and how Jeff Saturday is going to lead the Colts to a win over the Cowboys.
Okay, like let's be honest. Like a reckoning can't survive Jeff Saturday. Like I feel pretty safe about that one. But the Broncos one I wear proudly. Go ahead.
So that is a tough stretch there. Jordan Davis can be activated as soon as that Titans game. We don't know if he will be ready in terms of his recovery. It was a 4 to 6 week timeline. That's on the early side for that. So he could potentially be out if the 6 week holds till the Cowboys game early on Christmas Eve there. So yeah, that's certainly a tough schedule. And for the sake of the Eagles have to play on the road for the Giants game, the Bears game, and then the Cowboys game. And as we've talked about many times before, just any kind of team that has to play 3 straight road games typically does not fare well in that 3rd straight road game. It's just a lot. It's a lot to ask to have to fly around, travel like that, back to back to back. So certainly, yeah, I do think they're going to lose at some point. I do not agree with this bizarre ESPN article that had like I use this for my link title today in bleedinggreennation.com. There was an NFL executive who said a few late season losses would actually help the Eagles. It's so dumb. No, it would not. But yeah, a loss is going to come probably at some point.
So something do you think the Cowboys one won't because that's like Fox's diamond? But do you think that the Giants, probably not the Giants, I think that Bears game that's Eagles at Chicago for what it's worth is maybe a candidate to get flexed into Sunday Night Football. I don't know if you, like right now as we're talking, next week's Chargers Chiefs game got flexed into Sunday Night Football over the Bengals Steelers game. So we're at that point in the year. Sunday Night Football that week is the Patriots in Vegas. So not exactly like a juicy game. I could see it.
In the Eagles Bears week, you're saying?
Yeah. Like Eagles Bears, like it's 2 huge markets. Like, and depending on what the Bears do between now and then, obviously they're kind of ascending, even though they lost this past week. They're more entertaining. Like Chicago being a stimulating team is good business for the NFL. And they don't get a lot of opportunities to flex them into prime time. So I think they could capitalize on that. I mean, plus the Bears between now and then have the Lions, they're at Atlanta, at the Jets, then the Packers, and then coming off their bye. So they could be coming off like a win against the Packers. You know what I mean? It's possible. I don't know. My last Eagles question before we move on here. What is your take on the take that is floating around? There's a lot of Cowboys fans dropping this. We talk a lot about how the last undefeated team a year ago was the Arizona Cardinals, and they have like not recovered at all from that. Like they have like deeply fallen. But a lot of people are equating this team to the 2020 Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe not the team, but like the people think the record is similarly hollow. I don't think that myself. I do think that I think if you get to this point, and this isn't about the Eagles, but like, remember, was it 2013? The Chiefs made it to like 13-0. Like the Chiefs and Broncos were both undefeated forever, and then they beat the Broncos before ultimately losing. I think if you get to like 10-0, 11-0, I think you're naturally just a little bit overrated because something like wonderful has happened to get you to that point. I don't care like who the team is, but like you've gotten lucky, and like there's going to be some holes to poke in you no matter what. The Eagles are a very good team. They're not the 2020 Steelers. I don't think they're the 2021 Cardinals, but I do think that if you try, you can pick at some things, but you can do that for every team in the NFL.
Yeah, the Steelers comparison would be bad for multiple reasons. I mean, first of all, that was a weird year on the whole, COVID, and there's no crowds. So, it's easier to play on the road when there's no crowd noise. Also, did the Steelers have a quarterback that people were like, this guy could be the MVP? I don't think so. I don't think people were saying Ben Roethlisberger was playing at an MVP level. I think it was very clear the defense was the strength of that team, and he was doing just enough to get by, as clearly not the Eagles formula here. So, yeah, definitely not a good comparison. They're not unbeatable. I just saw Football Outsiders had the Eagles 15th out of 25 teams in DVOA history. So that's since 1981 to be 8-0. So
through 8 games, just to be specific. Right.
Yeah. To be right. So they're not one of the worst 8-0 teams ever by any means, but they're also not one of the best. They're somewhere in the middle there, and I think that's fine and reasonable to say. Still a team that has never trailed in the second half this year. Still a team that has had at least a 12-point lead in every single game. They're a very good team in a league. So everyone wants to do, and there was graphics like this. I know you and Stats got tagged in them. Who did the Eagles beat? You can do that for literally any team. Go through any teams. Who has an impressive resume right now? Do the Cowboys have an impressive resume? Who's the best team they beat? The Bengals, when they were really struggling early on, and also just got blown out by the Browns and Jacoby Brissett. What's the Cowboys signature win that looks great on their resume?
I'm not. So first of all, this isn't my argument, but
yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying against that premise that the Eagles haven't done anything. Who has done something?
I think the amount that people put up for certain teams is specific to the time of year you beat them. I'm not saying the Cowboys beating the Rams was impressive. I picked them that week with Cooper Rush, but it was more impressive than it would be now. You know what I'm saying? And and the opposite side of that spectrum, and this isn't a shot at the Eagles, but I didn't think that I thought the win against the Vikings was impressive when it happened in week 2. I'm obviously a believer in the Vikings, but I didn't think it was impressive, as much as I would think if they beat them today. You know what I'm saying? Circumstances change. We talk about that all the time. I would say that maybe the team, Miami's probably the team that has the resume, right? They beat Baltimore, they beat Buffalo, right? They're the team that's kind of survived
my Dolphins
things.
Yeah,
that's true. That would be the one. Maybe that's about it. I mean, that's about it. It's tough.
And Tua hasn't lost the game where he's finished or started and finished. Yeah.
If Minnesota beats Buffalo next week, that might be the most impressive win of the season, because you would have this you beat the pissed off Bills, right? That's the take everyone's got this week is the Bills are going to be all upset because they lost. Blah, blah, blah.
And it's in Buffalo, or do you know that?
That is in Buffalo. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the first game they're going to play. The next one will be in Arizona, just so we're clear. But yeah. Anyway, what a good time. My Vikings, I believed when nobody else did. I was laughed at. I was scorned. We obviously don't have a lot of Cowboys things to talk about with them being on their bye last week. Thank you, Bear. What do you make of this? Actually, let me phrase the question this way, as Bear barks. On a 1 to 10 scale, with 10 being the most, how much would it? How nervous would it make you if the Cowboys did sign Odell Beckham Jr.?
Yeah, I thought that's where this question was going. Probably a 3. Because I don't know where he's at health wise. The ACL tear was it was pretty late. It was February. And obviously different players, different severities. But for example, Tyree Jackson, who was a tight end for the Eagles, and Brett Toth, who's a backup offensive lineman, they both got hurt in that Week 18 Eagles-Cowboys game last year, and they have not even been activated yet to the roster. So they're about to get there potentially, but that's so basically that was a whole month before OBJ. So obviously there's time before the end of the season here. We're only in November. There's a whole month to go, but it seems like it's certainly better than not signing him. I think it makes them a better team potentially, but I just don't know how much I would be scared of him, because I don't know where he's really going to be at health wise, and how much he's going to be able to contribute. I would feel like it would be a role player kind of at most.
I think it's I don't know that there's a move any team can make that takes them from 0 to 10 on any type of scale, but I do think it would be very exciting. And I'm starting. This is not the normal Cowboys are connected to X player and just kind of rumors. This feels really real. Compared to most other things. The Cowboys were connected to Brandon Cooks right before the trade deadline. They were on Sunday when the report really started about the Odell interest. Buried within that was that they tried to trade for Jerry Jeudy as well. So you're talking about they tried to trade for 2 different receivers. Odell's a free agent, right? It just makes sense for them to do that. I think he's the best possible option for them. They clearly have a weakness at receiver right now, and you can make I could sit here and make an argument like, well, Dak missed 5 games. That changes like, things, but other receivers have found ways and blah, blah, blah. People are making a big deal about how no Cowboys receiver has had a 100-yard game this year. I mean, that is so like meaningless to me. But if Odell comes in, I mean, if your top 3 receivers, and I understand he's come back from a torn ACL, Michael Gallup's coming back from a torn ACL. He's been back obviously for a little while now. It's taken him a little while to kind of
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it like boom Super Bowl like right away, but I do think, I mean, I think they have to do it. I mean, it really it would make me feel all the more confident in their offense, and so I hope it happens. That's kind of where I'm at. It would be fun too. Like I can't remember, like it might be TO the last time they got like the superstar personality, like somebody on that level. So it'd be really fun. It'd be fun to see Odell back in the division. Like, couldn't you just see like, the graphic or whatever, the like package that Fox would do ahead of that Cowboys-Eagles game with Odell like warming up at AT&T Stadium, like wearing the hoodie and stuff. Like it feels very like NFC East Cowboy. This is the most NFC East possible thing that can happen in this year of the NFC East mixtape. Like we've gotten all sorts of treasures this year. Carson Wentz traded to Washington, the Astros Phillies World Series. Give us Odell on the Cowboys ahead of a Christmas Eve matchup against the Eagles. We need it.
Well, I'd like to see him go against the Giants too. Obviously, I don't know when the Cowboys play the Giants next. Okay, so probably not then.
No, because probably not ready till December.
I was never an Odell guy even with the Giants. I know he's talented. I can acknowledge that, but super big loser energy vibes when he was there. And just,
I mean, the end was really, really bad, like from a vibe standpoint.
But there were cracks in the armor along the way there. Like there was things I saw like leading up to that. Like I was just like, I know this guy is talented objectively, but I would not want him on my team because he's bringing this loser energy that I'm not buying into that. Like I'm not buying into him being on a successful team. And obviously, he just won the Super Bowl with the Rams. Although they were just so loaded and everything. So he was just a complimentary piece at that point, as opposed to the guy. I don't believe in him being like your leader of the team, your best player. I don't believe in that. And that's not what he would have to be clearly with the Cowboys. But I never believed in that. And yeah. So I don't know. I'm not like super concerned about it, but more than not at all. So yeah, I'll stick with the 3.
The trash is here, so Bear is pissed off. Bear is also really proud of Justin Fields. Like that's his dude now, apparently.
4.4 yards per attempt. This is the victory lap. People are taking 4.4. I know he had a great rushing game. That's great. Which is more sustainable? What's going to hold up? His ability as a passer, or his ability to run for like 100 yards every game?
I mean, these. I don't want to I'm not having this conversation, but like
116 net passing yards.
I'm not
116.
Like, I'm not advocating for him, but again, this feels very Jalen Hurtsy, right? Like we didn't know, like can he evolve
better than this?
Look, the question was, could Jalen Hurts evolve as a passer? He did. I mean, and he's done it in his 3rd year, right? Like, so that's going to be the comp is like, watch out, blah, blah, blah. We're going to see all sorts of like, we talk about like the graphics. There's going to be like Justin Fields' first 2 years graphic comparison to Jalen Hurts' first 2 years graphic comparison, which will be even more annoying if Jalen Hurts does win MVP, which I think he's the front runner for right now. And if I think
with Allen losing,
I think his biggest competition is Mahomes, and I think that helps him, like because it's so hard to win a second one. Like you have to do something even better than your MVP season, and it'd be very difficult for Mahomes to do that, obviously. But
and also, like if the Eagles remain undefeated, it's just going to be a kind of like a trump card there. It's like it's going to go in their favor.
So last thing on the Cowboys, this is, and I feel like I've upset a lot of Philly fans, and this is going to upset some of them again, maybe you. So it sucked when the Cowboys lost to the Eagles, but I think you understand that there was this natural like reservation from a Cowboys standpoint. Like, and again, it sucks. Like it's never like not painful to lose, in this rivalry, right? But there was this natural like, and like, yeah, as a Cowboys fan, you could talk yourself into like, oh, it's going to happen. You're going to do it. But like on some level, the like ceiling of what that game was for the Cowboys, right? With Cooper Rush, your quarterback. And so I say this with respect. It felt like Eagles fans were way more juiced for that game than Cowboys fans were, because you're operating at full strength, right, compared to the Cowboys. And so like I didn't really feel like the full version of my Cowboys fan self ahead of that game. And I feel the way I think Eagles fans felt ahead of this week, with the Cowboys going to Lambeau Field, Mike McCarthy going back. The Packers have been the big brother for the Cowboys and ended their playoff runs, two of their better ones, obviously, in recent history. So this feels really like, let's go show them. Let's go, like, drag them. This one's for Mike. And it does, like, at least the vibes I get from Justice Mosqueda, who I'm going to talk to this week for BTB, is like, Packers fans are so, like, apathetic about it. They're like, whatever, dude. Like, who cares? Like, come hang 50 on us. We don't care. We hate Rodgers too. You know what I mean? Like it, but I'm very interested in the Mike McCarthy factor.
Question for you after you're done sneezing there.
Bless me.
Did Cooper Rush starting for the Cowboys explain why Micah Parsons didn't do anything in that Eagles game?
Again, like, I'm not saying like the Eagles shouldn't feel happy about the win, but you understand why there was a like, it's not difficult for you to understand. You get what I'm saying too, though. But go ahead, Mike McCarthy.
I didn't dispute it. I'm just saying, like, that's a common thing. It's just like, you can't. It's just like Cooper Rush explained everything about that game. Anyway, yeah. I mean, this is Justice. Speaking of Justice, our good friend from the SB Nation NFL show. If you are not familiar with Justice and who runs Acme Packing Company, as RJ said, has been saying, leading up to this game for weeks, even with the Packers losing, like, just beat McCarthy, just beat the Cowboys. Like, that's their Super Bowl at this point, because expectations have gotten so low there. And I watched the Packers lose to the Lions on Sunday, and man, just an all-time bad vibes team. It's just like Lions have one of the worst defenses in years, and the Packers just, like, look terrible. Could not get it done. Rodgers is, like, underthrowing receivers, like, just putting the ball, like, it was just that team is in such a bad way right now. The energy there is terrible. So yeah, I mean, why they've lost all benefit of the doubt. No one can in their right mind pick the Packers, like, anytime soon until they show something to believe in. They've shown nothing to believe in.
I agree with you completely. And that's why like, people are like, is this a trap game for the Cowboys, blah blah blah, whatever. My thought process on it is like, well, I mean, like, I think it is because of the emotion, right? Like, it's an emotional game because of McCarthy, because it's the Packers, because it's the Cowboys. You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff. And so, like, the way we've talked about, like, with the Eagles, like, with, like, the Steelers game, like, oh, is this a trap game? Go vanquish them. You know what I mean? Go end them. Like, go. Like, make it's not a game; it's a decision. So go up there and just end the narrative, end the conversation, and just, like, get to work. So that's what I'm hopeful the Cowboys will do. Obviously. Okay, let's take a very quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Brandon, welcome back. During the break, you told me that you went and got a cup of Jell-O out of the fridge. What color is it?
Red.
Is that your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite Jell-O. I'm fine with Jell-O, but I'm not, like,
I think red
getting excited about it.
Is kind of overrated. Like, people are like, my favorite flavor of Gatorade is red. I'm not really a big fruit punch guy.
I'm not. What's your favorite Gatorade flavor?
Melon.
Oh, I think we've talked about this. Yeah, bad answer. Yeah. I like strawberry the best. I think it's the best. It's a rare flavor. You can't get it everywhere. It is. It's a rare flavor. And not strawberry kiwi or whatever. There's like a strawberry, like, hyphen flavor. Not that one. Like the actual, just the strawberry.
What color is it?
It's pink.
So it's not like, it's more pink than red. Is my question.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, definitely more pink. And I think that adds to it too. I like the aesthetic. I like how it looks. It's fun.
You know what flavor doesn't age well as you age as a person? You know, like when, like, Gatorade or Powerade has, like, the, like, clear, or it's like a white, like Arctic whatever. When you're a kid, that's super cool, and then when you get older, it's just, like, gross. So
yeah, the Arctic cherry, I think it is now. It's fine. Like, whatever.
The New York Good, once again, at Football Giants, were on by themselves, and I have to sneeze again, so I'm going to fight it off. On Monday, though, we found out. Thank you very much. I can do it. Anyway, on Monday, we found out that even though they were on bye, they have lost a player, Xavier McKinney, one of their better players. So, well, his explanation was that he was in Cabo, and he was on an ATV and had an accident with his hand, so he's going to miss a few weeks.
What's up with the Giants and hand injuries, man? Like, it's not a good theme here.
I mean,
RJ is still silent because he's
I'm waiting on the. It's okay. We normally don't do it at this hour. We don't record. But how big of a deal is this?
It's a really big deal. I mean, he's probably been one of their. I think Giants fans would say he's been one of their best defensive players this year. I'd say I can't. Dexter Lawrence has probably been their best. I think you'd argue kind of like playing at an all-pro level, really. But certainly in the secondary, I know you have Adoree Jackson there too. But I mean, they're easily at the very least their best safety. I think if I'm to be correct, we had Xavier McKinney on our all NFC East team. One of the better safeties in the division, you would certainly say.
That team's going to be epic next year, by the way. Like,
yeah,
compared to the
there's
last
going to be a lot of Eagles on that list.
You know what? I've taken my victory laps. I'm not going to revisit the Hassan Reddick, Micah Parsons conversation. I'm not going to do it.
That was such a throwaway line. That that I don't even remember saying, and I also did not passionately defend at any point.
The Giants have 2 more games at home before their Thanksgiving Day matchup against the Cowboys. They have the Houston Texans this week and the Detroit Lions. We feel confident that they get to 8-2, right, before Thanksgiving Day.
What are these games again? Texans and Lions.
Yeah, both at home, both at noon.
I think they could lose one.
Like maybe they'd lose that Lions game. I could kind of see that.
One of those two. I'm going to say they will lose one. Not both, but one. They will lose one.
Wow. Lock it up. By the way, you won your lock of the week last week on the look ahead. I pushed.
Right.
So
I lost.
Tough scene for me. But after that, we do get NFC East Mageddon once again. I hadn't realized this. I don't know if you realized this. But so starting Thanksgiving Day, the Giants are at Dallas, obviously for Thanksgiving Day, as mentioned. Then the next week they host the Commanders. Then the following week they host the Eagles, and then the following week they're in Washington. So 4 weeks in a row, the New York Giants playing an NFC East game. That's crazy. Why? Why do that? Like, that's so stupid. But I guess this year it kind of works out.
I know like the Jets and Patriots are playing in like 2 out of their like 3 games. I think there's a bye in there for one of those teams or whatever. So maybe it's 2 out of 4. But yeah, just dumb scheduling. I think not as bad as last year. Just like really dumb.
Your point, the Commanders, enough. Your point has been made. The Commanders have their bye sandwiched between those Giants games. So they're 2 games in a row will play the Giants.
Okay. How do we think they split those?
No, I think the Giants sweep them. I don't.
You think the Giants sweep them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Commanders are like good enough to be cute, but I mean, like that's what like for next Monday night. Like I think like maybe it'll be like a little contentious, but like I don't doubt that they'll lose all these games. Okay. Speaking of the Commanders, I'm about to close this door to get Bear out of here, but it's time for Kirk Cousins talk. So fire people up.
I don't know what RJ is throwing that to me. I don't know what it's supposed to. Okay, so the Commanders lost to the Vikings. Kirk had an 81.8 passer rating, so wow, he really lit him up. Oh, you're back already. I clicked to see on the stat line there. Yeah, I mean, so how do you feel about my take? Because I had this take last week that I thought the Commanders' past couple wins said more about their opponents being bad than it did about the Commanders actually being like back and really good.
I agree.
It's not like they got owned by the Vikings. It was a 3-point game, ended up being decided on like a last second kind of field goal. But I don't think it was like the Commanders were ever like, did they even have so they did have a lead in this game. Okay, they're up 17.
They were up by 10. I mean,
yeah.
So, and this was my thing. They were up by 10 and they were chanting, "You like that" at Kirk. And dude, that is the biggest big loser energy of all time. Like the one, like it was dorky, but the one like cool moment of pride he gave you know what I mean? Like throughout his time there. And like
that was not a moment of pride.
That was a big win for them. Like, do you remember who they beat? Because I had to look it up. I didn't remember. It was not that impressive. It was the Jameis led Bucks. But
okay.
But still, like that's so lame, dude. Like clowning on this dude for like, and he saved them after the RG3 stuff. I mean, he gave them a viable franchise quarterback. Like you can argue about how good he was or wasn't or whatever, but he was a stable franchise quarterback for them, the most stable one they've had this century. And like that's so stupid to clown him like he and like he burned the team. Like the front office messed that up. Like I thought that was so lame from the Commanders.
Well, we should probably zoom out of it here because speaking of, so obviously this loss damages the Commanders' chances of being a fourth NFC East team in the playoffs. Not to say it still can't happen, but Probably not likely, especially because they have to play still a lot of the better teams than them in the NFC East. But zooming out a bit here, absolutely need to talk about how it looks like Dan Snyder's going to sell the team. And as I've said on other podcasts, and so originally it was reported as like he hired the Bank of America to help consult, and it was kind of left vague as like he might sell part of the team or the whole team. But then I believe Jay Glazer said on Fox NFL Sunday that like he's selling the team at some point, probably. So as I have said on BGN Radio, like I feel like there's this weird thing that people do where they're like fans are like they acknowledge how bad Dan Snyder is, and maybe because they're decent human beings, they're like he should not be in the NFL because the NFL is a worse product overall with him in it because he is a bad, clearly like not a great person, and you don't want that associated with the sport you like. But if you're me or you, like you absolutely want Dan Snyder. I want him to be there forever because then the Commanders never have a chance to have sustained success with him. So like I'm not like good. Because literally any other owner that the Commanders get will be an upgrade, even if it's like the next worst possible owner. It's still an upgrade, and it doesn't look like it's going to be. I mean, I don't know how good Jeff Bezos and company are going to be as owners, whatever. But like, they do have money, so they're probably going to throw a ton of money at a new stadium.
They have like all the
facilities.
Yeah,
and players in free agency. So like that concerns me because that doesn't guarantee they're going to be successful, but they're going to be in a much better spot than they are right now. So I'm not worried about this in the short term, but this is certainly a long-term concern for me. That it's not like I think the Commanders are necessarily going to be a juggernaut, but they're not going to be like just a team you can automatically write off like they pretty much are every year under Dan Snyder.
I have a few concerns. I think
like what's your concern level with that? Like mine's like a 9.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so to be very clear, on the scale of like 1 to 10 horrible person scale, Dan Snyder is a 10, right? Like he's a horrible person. He does not deserve an NFL team, right? Like in those vacuums, we agree. This is like a Dave Gettleman thing. Like, please, Dave Gettleman, never leave the Giants, right? Like, make sure this team is as bad as possible. But like, like BLG is not advocating for Dan Snyder, just to be very clear, because that was the stats cleared up on the look ahead when we talked about this. Right. But so I think what concerns me is I think we all like acknowledge Jerry Jones has had like some bad seasons as the owner, GM, president of the Cowboys, like from a football standpoint, but he's also had some really successful ones. Like, and I don't think Jerry's like as ill-equipped as people make him out to be. I don't think he's as equipped as he himself makes himself out to be. But like, like we agree, like the Cowboys have had high levels of off the field and on the field success in his tenure. Like the Commanders have not had any on-field success, like not at all, like nothing in Dan Snyder's like it is literally 100% terrible, embarrassing, bad football production, save for RG3.
Maybe like a season here and there, but nothing sustainable.
Right. So like you're literally getting rid of somebody who has like this was, I know we have like a lot of younger fans. This was a once very proud franchise. In fact, I would argue, I wouldn't argue it that strongly, but like prior to Dan Snyder's ownership, this was a more successful team in the division than the Eagles. Like the Eagles have kind of in the Dan Snyder era surpassed them to become a better NFC East team historically. And so, for the longest time, Cowboys fans, their top rival was Washington in this division.
Yep.
And so, I mean, he has really messed this up. And so I'm concerned that they'll get better as a football team, but I'm also concerned. I'm not saying I think Jeff Bezos is cool, but like we're hearing all sorts of rumors, like, like Matthew McConaughey's tied to it. Like I'm concerned that they could become
Jay-Z.
Well, yeah, like cool is not the right word, but like respectable and like a place you would want to go, like a place you would want to play, like like if they do build a new facility or a new stadium, like they'll have all these new toys and gadgets and gizmos, whatever. And so it's now like, it's not just like, man, the football team sucks, the stadium's falling apart, it falls on opposing players, like everything's terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm concerned from a competitive standpoint about order being restored there. Because I've never been to DC, or I have been to DC, sorry. I was in high school, but like, probably a nice place to live, right? Like cool stuff. You get to, be in the nation's capital, whatever stock you put into that. I mean, like, East Coast life, whatever. Like, I mean, it wasn't good enough for Bryce Harper, but I mean, like it would suck. I mean, it would suck if they got a lot better with infinite pockets. And what would be really annoying, like to be full football fan, Jeff Bezos, obviously Amazon, right? Like they would be like the most Thursday Night Football lead team. Like we would get like inundated with
all
like,
of their games are Thursday Night Football.
Well, like they would have so much like marketing and like, because an NFL owner theoretically would have like a level of ownership over like some broadcast rights. Like, they would become like the way the Rams annoy us with how front and center they are in terms of NFL coverage. That would be them to a different degree.
So, from our perspective, not good news, but certainly if you're a Commanders fan, then yes, I do.
Oh, this is the greatest time to be a Commanders fan
exactly.
in a long time.
So taking myself out of the Eagles' perspective for a bit, this is obviously awesome for them. They should feel amazing about this. That's what they've been asking for. From a, if I'm again to remove any kind of personal rooting interest and look at it from an NFL standpoint, I think it's great that the Commanders would get turned around and actually have a chance to at least be a viable team instead of being an automatic joke every year, and you're kind of just rooting against the inevitable. So definitely a big concern. It's just like it's kind of what we were talking about with the Giants, when they got, which we can transition into here, Dable and Shane. It was like, oh wow, this is now like has the potential to be like a legitimate NFL franchise, and that's bad news for us, but certainly good news for them and their fans.
I brought up Wink Martindale. I think that's like an important subplot to that, because when you have somebody respectable as your head coach and a respectable general manager, somebody like Wink Martindale is willing to go be your defensive coordinator. When it's Joe Judge, it's like, well, we got Jason Garrett. Like, and I'm not trying to bag on Patrick Graham, but you know what I mean. Like, it's you have to stumble into something as opposed to being able to procure something great. You're not like a hotbed destination. That stinks. Okay, it's prediction time. We have 3 games because the Eagles play the Commanders this week. So we will go in chronological order as far as how these games will happen. The New York Giants will be hosting the Houston Texans. Our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, as I say that sentence slowly so that my app can open up and I can look at it in front of me. Our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, who sponsor us over the SB Nation NFL show, have the Giants favored by 6.5 points.
I'll take the Giants here. I know I said they're going to lose one of their next 2, so I guess I have them losing to the Lions. But the Texans are a tough team. I mean, Davis Mills is clearly not any good. Dameon Pierce is a nice player, but I think the Giants' defensive line can kind of handle him with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams there. And I think they'll do a decent enough job of bottling him up. And, Texans just not a good football team. So
it'd be funny if the Giants like blasted them. You know what I mean? They would like the takes would be like, well, the Eagles had a little bit of trouble with it. Like it would be really funny. So from a chaos standpoint, that's what I'm rooting for.
Also, would be the first time the Giants have really done that this year. Like haven't, it's all these 1-score games. They haven't like blasted anybody.
Who's the team they've most irregardless of score? Who's the team they've most like?
No, not a word. Well, I guess they did make it a word retroactively.
Yeah, like who's the team they've most like had their way with? Again, like irrespective of the score. I think the answer is the Packers.
I guess so. Yeah, true.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so I'm taking the Giants too. Again, rooting for chaos. The Dallas Cowboys are 5-point favorites at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Mike McCarthy's revenge.
Yeah, I'll take again, no one should be like, why? What are you hanging your? That's a phrase we use a lot here. What do you hang your hat on with? I'm literally wearing. It's like
it's history. That's all. You know what I'm saying? It's like I asked a friend. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I asked a friend because I tweeted this out too. I said, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC? And I was like texting my friend about it.
Jalen Hurts number 1, right?
What? So my friend Jimmy, who is at Game 6, by the way. So once again, shout out to the Astros. He said, well, you can't really put guys like Geno over Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, can you? And I was like, why not? Can. Like you can. Like, I mean,
if you're talking about legacy, no. But if you're talking about right now,
we're talking about who they are today. Like, I recognize that it sounds or feels stupid to do that, like in your brain, if you've been watching football forever. But like, if you're just if you were an alien and landed here this season, you'd be like, this Aaron Rodgers dude stinks. Like, I think the 5 names that I settled on are Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, which is just great for my brand. Geno Smith, and then who's 5? Like who's the 5th name? It might be Brady, or it might be Justin Fields. I don't know which one would upset you more.
No, come on.
Who's the 5th? Who's the 5th best? Again, just pick a name. Like, give me the 5th name.
So what did you say again?
I said Hurts, Dak, Cousins, Geno. Those are the top 4 quarterbacks in the conference. Who's the 5th?
Daniel Jones.
I mean, so it's Daniel Jones. Justin Fields is in the conversation for that 5th spot right now.
No, he is not. 4.4 yards per attempt, baby.
Dude, again, it's more about like you talked about the Commanders' win says more about the quality of their opponents than it does like them. It's more about like the quality of the field, no pun intended, than it is about Justin Fields.
I think you have to go with Daniel Jones. You could say, Jimmy G on a good day is him, but he's, the variance.
That's what I'm saying. I'm more willing to give that to Brady than I am to Rodgers right now. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I can kind of talk myself into Brady being that fifth, but man, it's tough cookies right now in the NFC.
Yeah, I guess I'd go Brady, just because I think he does deserve more benefit of the doubt right now than Rodgers does.
Right. So we're both taking Dallas to cover the Packers. 5 points, Lambeau Field.
Yeah. What would your level of concern be if the Cowboys somehow did lose that game?
It would be super annoying. It would be super annoying to breathe life into this Packers team, right? Like, I would be annoyed if anybody like breathed life into this Packers team, but like for it to be the Cowboys, because you would enjoy it, but like Aaron would have the like most smug quote of all time afterwards about McCarthy. And that would really irk me. Let me ask a question this way: what would be impressive for the Cowboys to do in this game? Because it's hard to do something impressive when you're like an overwhelming favorite like this. But given the like tiny emotional, it's not tiny, I think it's massive, like emotional element to this game, what would be impressive?
Just like a blowout win. However it comes. I would say here that, I just raised the concern issue. Like if they do lose, I had a point. I totally forgot it. My bad. Never mind. It'll come back to me in like 5 minutes when you're talking.
It's okay. So, okay, we both taking the Giants to cover, both taking the Cowboys to cover. Final game, Monday Night Football. Eagles second Monday night game this year. Wow. They give the big boys only one Monday night game, so it's understandable. But anyway,
doesn't make any sense. In Philly. Put the big boys in primetime less.
Do you think, before I ask you to pick, do you think that we'll see some like Carson Wentz moment, like, like on field or whatever, like, he might not even make the trip because he's on, IR or whatever. I don't know, but so
maybe he would come because see old friends or whatever, because there was some of that going on before the Commanders game in week 3. But yeah. I like the Eagles in this one. They're double-digit point favorites for the 3rd straight week, which is
11 is the line as of this moment, just so we're all clear.
Yeah, I think it was at like 10.5 on Monday. Covering's a little tough because the Commanders have played teams, competitively recently. Those teams have not been great teams. The Bears, the Colts, and the Packers. So not like the most impressive resume there. Although, they kept it close against the Vikings. Heineke is certainly an upgrade of what Wentz was when these two teams met in week 3, and the Eagles were able to sack Carson Wentz 9 times. And prior to the game, I was like, you can set your watch to Carson Wentz fumbling in a big moment, and that's going to, be a big deal breaker or be a big death knell for the Commanders. And sure enough, it was. Although that game wasn't even as close as it looked. And the final score was 24-8, but the Commanders only scored on their final drive of the game, clearly garbage time. The Eagles had backup defenders in the game at that point. So it wasn't really close at all. But I do expect this game to be closer because Heineke will at least give the Commanders some kind of chance. Won't be as bad as Wentz was, I think, in that game. And then Chase Young might be back. Big deal. That's not confirmed yet, but his window has been activated. He was not activated for their Vikings game, but I think he might be able to play this week. So that's certainly a factor as well. I will take the Eagles to win. Feel pretty good about that. I'll take them to cover too, but it's close. I don't feel like amazing about it. I'll say they cover, but it's not like a lock. I'm not making this my lock of the week.
I think it's a backdoor cover if they cover. Like it's some sort of like they like you get a touchdown with like 6 minutes remaining to kind of like cover the line. Mm-hmm. Let me be very clear. I want the Eagles to lose every game, but like I'm more nervous about the Eagles this time around than I was last time. Just because you've been on like the Wentz being terrible training for years now. And you were right? Like like he's gonna fumble, like all the things happen. Like that isn't a factor. Like Taylor Heineke is like an adult, back there. That's not the right word, but are you aware of his tradition, by the way? Taylor Heineke's personal one?
No.
So when he wins, like when the Commanders win, and he's quarterback, obviously, the week after, he rewards himself by buying a pair. I might have the like details of this wrong, but buying a pair of Jordans. I don't know like what kind. I'm not like a shoe person. So Rachel, you can.
Well, he gets a bonus with each win too, like
right
because of his contract. Yeah.
So Rachel, who does a fantastic job putting this together, you can correct me on whatever the type is, and I say that respectfully because I don't know. I'm not that cool. He buys a pair in the colors of the team that he just beat. So like after they beat the Colts, he bought like some blue and white ones. You know what I'm saying? So like,
interesting.
He might be getting a pair of midnight black or midnight green, whatever, in black and white.
Do you really believe that he might do that?
I mean, I do think we're approaching the headline across the internet. The Eagles' first loss of the season was good for them. Like that headline is lurking around a corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that there's truth to that. Like, I agree with you. Like, like losing multiple games, but like, it's such a difficult thing to keep like this thing going, right? Like to keep this like undefeated. Like it becomes a bigger burden's not the right word, but it becomes a bigger thing every week.
Target on your back.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Calling it a good thing is not the right way to put it. But I do think there will be like a natural relief, right? Like, okay, like it's over. Like now we can just focus on the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Whatever. Yeah, I don't know. But I think I'll take Washington to cover. I'm not going to pick Philly to lose until Christmas Eve at least, but until they've lost. Like I don't think you should pick an undefeated team to lose until they give you a reason to. I know that they've sputtered and had moments where it's like, whoa, but they've found a way no matter what.
But yeah, and that's every team too. It's just like it's not unique to the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take Philly to win, Washington to cover, which would give us, if we're correct in our wins losses, that would put Philly at 9-0, the Cowboys and Giants at 7-2 apiece, and the Commanders at 4-6. Wow. Okay. Wow.
So kind of kill off any probably remaining hope or kind of for the Commanders there.
Yeah. Last thing before we wrap it up. What is a non-football thing that you A, want to watch this week, and B, recommend to other people to watch this week?
I'm so behind on, because again, like the World Series has been eating up my time. Like, I'm so behind on shows, so it's not even anything like new or interesting. I think I got to like 4 or 5 episodes, both in of House of the Dragon and the Lord of the Rings show. So I kind of just want to finish those, especially because it's one of those things where I also listen to some podcasts based around that, but like that's on hold too, because I need to watch the show first. So I definitely want to get to that. I've been like barely been keeping up with Survivor. I am caught up to date, but like it's like I don't think I've watched live like almost most of the season this year, which is unusual for me. I love to watch it live. That's part of the experience for me. Although fast forwarding through the commercials can be nice. So because then I listen to the podcast too, the Rob as a podcast.
The smartest guys around.
I've not made it through all of those this week yet, leading up to tomorrow. So I have to get caught up on those as well. So those are the 2 shows, House of the Dragon. I like House of the Dragon more. I don't know if I said that here. Not that like it has to be a comparison between those two, but I think I like the drama more. I will say that the Lord of the Rings show has better visuals, but like that's nice. That's not really what I'm there for when I'm watching TV. I don't want the storytelling and the drama. Lord of the Rings show is fine. I don't have an issue with it. I just don't think when you do compare it, I'm just more like House of the Dragon's like a page turn. I don't want to stop watching it. Like I can take a break from the Lord of the Rings show.
We finished Rings of Power. It was very good. Certainly visually pleasing. I don't think I've watched a House of the Dragon since the NFL season started. That's kind of the way things. It's difficult because it comes out on Sundays and then you're like all behind, and then like you have new shows popping up. It's really hard. The thing you didn't answer in the ways I asked, but okay, whatever. I kind of want to watch the Weird Al movie. I'm a little bit interested. So I kind of want to see.
Do you like Weird Al?
No, but I like stories. Like I like like documentaries are cool. I don't know what the.
Can you name a Weird Al song?
The only one I can name is the
a parody that he did.
Yeah, the spoof on American Pie that he did for the first Star Wars movie. That song I always remembered. But I don't know. Is it a biopic? Like when it's a movie about somebody's real life? Is that what the word is? I like movies like that.
What else would it be?
No, I don't know the name. That's what I'm asking. It's not like an autobiography. Like I'm asking if that's what that kind of movie is called. I like movies like that. Like documentaries are cool, but I like a movie that's based on like a real person's real life, which is what this is. So I want to like learn something. Learn about weird. I recognize it's a movie, but like I'm interested in that. So I'm, we'll see. Still got all the shows normally. Something I would recommend to watch. We watched The Mole on Netflix.
Dude, Dude, I love the OG Mole. Did you ever watch that back in the day?
Of course.
I love those. So they were like, honestly, might have been my favorite show. They were so good. Anderson Cooper and everything. Yeah.
To tie all this together, over at BTB when the Cowboys played the Commanders, I had Dalton Ross on to preview the game because he's a Commanders fan. Dalton Ross covers reality television for entertainment. Does a great Survivor write-up every week that I send to Brandon that he never reads, whatever. And he's awesome. And he recommended after we stopped recording, we were just chatting. He said, "Dude, the new season of The Mole that's on Netflix is really, really, really good." So we watched it.
Watch it.
It's a little reality TV-ish. Like you got to surrender some like sense of actual reality to enjoy the show because it's a little cheesy, but it is very, very classic OG The Mole. I highly recommend.
Okay. Yeah, The Mole was great, and it was a bummer that I didn't get to last like some other shows have for a long time, like Survivor. Watch Survivor, people. Come on. If you're not watching it, you're missing out. It's such a low barrier of entry, too. I feel like it's so it's just appeal, especially for a sports fan. Like, I feel like it's just such a natural thing to like there's strategy involved. There's physical competition. I think people get like scared off because of the reality label. Because I think when people think of reality, they think of shows like The Bachelor, which are also, I'm not trying to crap on those shows. I'm just saying like that's more of its own thing to me. Where I think Survivor like blends genres and audiences. There's people who like it for the reality aspect. There's people who like it for the physical competition aspect. So people who also might watch like the challenge, for example. Like it's a melting pot, I would say.
I would also, you didn't even mention this. The social dynamic is what makes it
social.
That's my favorite element of Survivor is like
there is
social
something
gameplay
there for everyone in Survivor. You can't tell me like there's just nothing here for me. No, there's absolutely some aspect of that show you will enjoy. I guarantee it. Watch it.
And like my son is he's almost 1, but like I would watch, like this truly is like the most, like it's difficult to find a show that like the whole family can watch and enjoy equally. This is like the whole family can get something and it's like a cool and tell me if you agree or disagree and then we'll get out of here. The fact that it lands on Wednesday nights is like a sweet spot, like because it's like Wednesday night, we're over the hump. Tomorrow's Thursday, the good vibes are here, like whatever. It's a perfect collection of emotion, especially during the fall.
Just adds to it. You're 100% right. Yeah, because what else is going on Wednesday night? I don't know.
Lego Masters, which I also recommend. Lego Masters is really cool.
Sure.
So
with Will Arnett, I feel like I can do a Will Arnett impression, like decently, terribly, but not great.
Let's hear it.
I need something to read though. I'm not good at I'm not good at doing impersonations because I don't know what to say. Like I can do the voice, but I can't. I need to read off like a line because I'm not going to be able to. I'm not good at thinking on my feet, which is
podcaster. They casted Will Arnett to be the voice of Batman in the Lego Batman movie, and my agent, I was in the Entourage movie, and I was considering it, but I'm too dedicated to my craft, and I wake up and it's grind, and when I'm done grinding, I eat lunch, and when I eat lunch, I'm watching film, and when I'm done watching film, I go work out because it's a relentless pursuit of excellence. That's how maybe when I retire, but hopefully that's a long time from now. You know what I mean?
Last thing I'll say is shout out to my friends Alex and Ivy. I'm visiting them in Boston, which is why my background is different. If you're watching the YouTube version for a little mini vacation during the mini bye week for the Eagles, I have Keiko, their dog, here where I'm pointing now, and then I have Monster over here. Some great dogs. I love boxers specifically, so extra happy to see Monster. Sorry, Keiko, but it's just the reality.
I will give a shout out to one of your friends too. Shout out to Holden and his Philadelphia Phillies that got worked in my Houston Astros. So
he's
Holden,
listening.
Maybe don't write a check that your team can't cash, Holden. That's all I'm saying. Because you tried to do that, you lost. I'll give you a lot of credit for living up to the Phillies losing with a payoff, something that you've done. Your Twitter profile picture. What has Holden done? What honor does Holden have? Just talking endless crap.
He didn't make a bet with you.
I'm just saying, like, if you lose, there should be some sort of payoff. Like, I'm just saying, I'm open for business, Holden, if you want to atone for your misgivings on this situation.
All right.
Wow. Okay, Brandon. Let's get out of here. Give us 3 random.
More? We don't need to do more.
No. 3. I actually have been told by people that they enjoy this part of the show.
Okay.
But I want to pick something different. 3 random. Okay.
Songs.
You're getting frozen yogurt. You've already gotten the yogurt portion, right? Like whatever flavors are irrelevant here. You can pick 3 general toppings for your froyo. What are they?
I don't even know like what toppings are available generally. I'm not really a fruit guy, so I can't do that. In my mind, maybe there's chocolate chips there. Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Maybe there's some kind of like crushed up peanut.
Oh my gosh, the suspense! You disconnected for a moment. You said
recording.
You disconnected.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so you said chocolate chips, and then we lost you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Peanut butter, like crushed up peanut butter cups or peanut butter chips. And then a third one. These are all going on the same thing, or I'm just
all same thing.
Oh man. Well, it's not really random then. I want these to kind of work at some level. What else would even be there? Can I say whipped cream?
No.
I don't go to a frozen yogurt place like very often. I don't know what else would be there.
Allow me to suggest like crushed up Oreo bits or M&Ms, something like that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, there you go. M&Ms. I'll go with M&Ms.
All right. Go Cowboys and nobody else. Brandon, last word belongs to you. Pick a word.
Word. Monster.